I'm pretty sure they had this conversation because, people just not going to follow you unless you really, they're just not going to, you got to have something, you got to be able to say something. People not just going to follow you just for following's sake. So I'm pretty sure he had this conversation with her and told her everything that God told him. God said, my seed. And she probably did anything like anybody else would say. How is that possible? And I'm barren. How do you think she felt? Because in this day and age, if you didn't have a child, you wouldn't ever had a child, you was looked down upon. Now she was the first lady, but it wasn't first ladies, but we just gonna call her that for this morning. She was the first lady. Her husband was the big kahuna, the big chief. So how you think she felt to be in a situation where she was not able to have the promise that God promised her husband? See, a lot of times we go through different things and we go through different struggles, and it's just because when we look at how big the vision is, and we look at our abilities or our inabilities to be able to accomplish that thing, we try to find every way. She was bothered. I'm the first thing, and the God said he was going to do what? He was going to have a seed, and he was going to father many nations. But how is that possible? And I'm barren. How am I able to give birth to purpose when I can't even get pregnant? Some of us are sitting around right now and we're barren and we're trying to figure out why. God, you showed me something. I've been given the word. I've been taught a word. I see the vision. I see where you want us to go. I see what you want to do. But how is that possible? I don't have the smarts, or I didn't have enough education, or I'm not this. I didn't have any training. How is that possible for me to get to the vision that you showed me? So she's going back and forth. She's trying to figure this thing out, and she's in a place, and she said, you know what? Let me help God. Some of us have tried to help God. And she tried to help God because she didn't think she could fulfill the vision. When God begins to show you your vision, and it's usually massive, it's really not something that we can really grab a hold of. Somebody got to tell you a couple times, you don't want to listen. You hard-headed. It's a big vision, and when you look at it, you say, there's no way I can do it. But what I can do is help God out. So she comes up with a plan. Sometimes we try to come up with plans. And she comes up with a plan. I can see her just pacing back and forth, saying, you know what? He said I was going to be barren, and I'm barren. But he said my husband's going to be a father of many nations. He said out of his bowels, okay, he going to have a seed. I got it. I got a handmaiden. I'm going to have my husband marry her. He have a child with her. Problem solved. For some strange reason, we always try to help God out. When we just need to stay out barren but still. And let God do what God gonna do. Why? Because we deal with circumstances, situations based on time. When I look at where I am, I'm running out of time here. So God, he meant what he said, but he must have mean it through me. The people have told me I was going to be great, but I'm pretty sure they didn't really mean me. They meant that I was going to help somebody else be great. People said that I was going to speak to the people, and that I was going to be a witness for Jesus, but maybe he really wasn't talking about me. Maybe he meant that I was going to help somebody else. See, God calls the most unlikeliest people to do great things. Yes. Look at Moses. He had a stuttering problem. How are you going to lead 1 million people and you stutter? And then it said initially he had to counsel with everybody. That had long conversation. I ain't trying to talk about nobody that study. You study, I ain't trying to talk about you. I'm just saying, that's a long conversation if you can't get out the words. But again, your purpose is not based on your abilities, it's based on God. So we get back to Sarai. She comes up with this plan, and it sounds good. It sounds like, we're heading in the right direction. It sounds good, and Abram did what any man would do. Okay, if that's what you want to do, then that's what I'm going to do it. He kind of just fell in the suit, fell into place. Maybe he should have spoke up, I don't know, he said, but he just kind of fell in the suit. He said, okay, if this is what you want, then this is what we're going to do. But it ends up backfiring in her face for this purpose. It ends up backfiring in her face, and the handmaid began to look down upon her. Then she gets upset and said, I did something wrong. And Abram, once again, as a man should do, whatever you want to do, I'm going to let you do it. I'm just staying out of it. But a lot of times when we try to help God, it backfires, and then we try to fix it again. God never told you to do that in the first place. All we had to do was just wait on God. He said he was going to do it. Obviously, there's a way that he's going to accomplish that thing. But sometimes the vision is too big for us to be able to grab hold of it. The vision that God has for you, that God has probably shown you, I know it looks too big for you to be able to grab a hold of it, but all you have to do is to continue to trust in God. It doesn't matter what it looks like, brother. A lot of times we base, what we're going to do off of what it looks like. We say, well, this is what it's looking like, even though this is what you told me. And there's no way I can get from A to B and make it all the way to Z and skip all the other numbers. But that's the only way I can get there, because I can't get to all the other letters. But you can't look at what's going on. You have to just trust in God. And sometimes that's one of the hardest things to do, is to trust God even when all hell is breaking loose. Trust God even when I know physically I'm not able to give birth to this thing, but you still want me to trust God. You still want me to believe in you, God, when physically I can't do it. So how is it possible? I don't have what it takes to get there. I don't have what it takes to position myself to be able to get to the purpose. But God, a lot of times, God wants us to be barren. God wants us to be in a place where all we can do is depend on him. Where all we can do is just trust in him for this purpose. He's called you for a purpose. He has a purpose for you. And before the foundation of the world, he put this purpose in you. And it doesn't matter what you can't do. All you have to do is continue to follow and trust God. If we just look at where God brought us from, we shouldn't be here right now. Where God delivered us